discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, this video is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering you a free audiobook with a 30-day free trial membership. All you need to do is go to audibletrial.com/BGUnlocked. The link is in the description below, and now enjoy the video. Hey everyone, welcome to the discussion for the solo variant for Root, the game of Woodland Might and Right. Here I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on the solo variant, and if you want to know what we think of a full game with 4 people, you can definitely go check out my run-through and our discussion for that. So I'll probably still make some comparisons to this and a full game. This solo variant for Root, I would say is pretty bad. In my opinion, I think I actually really do not like this as a solo variant. And there's a couple reasons why. But first, before I get into that, I want to say that the mechanical marquee is not a bad variant. I just think it needs to be used for kind of what I feel like was its intended purpose, was to replace a player in a multiplayer game. So Root is already not that great as a 2-player game. Like, you really get the full experience with 4 with like in any combination of the 4. But if you only have 3, you can put in the mechanical marquee, and I think that would do it would do a pretty good job at actually playing like a human relative, because they don't play like the cats, because the cats, have to manage their buildings and their resources to be able to build up and recruit and do all that. Whereas they just kind of reveal a card and it's like, oh, okay, so then they battle in all areas. I mean, in this case, it's a wild. They battle in all fox areas. Then they move to all fox areas, all but 3. And then they recruit depending on the cost, which all this is perfectly fine. I actually like the way the mechanical marquee plays. Because like it gives like a semblance of like, okay, well in Birdsong it's just gonna get 2 points for everything, every area that has 3 or more warriors, and it does a pretty streamlined and solid job of doing that. But that's also with other players trying to hone them in. In a 1v1 solo game, I don't know. Like, I played it with the Lizard Cult, so keep that in mind with my criticisms, because the Lizard Cult are definitely kind of a slow burn type of faction. Like, they utilize other people's things against them. They have a lot of freedom with their cards, and like no one can really take it from them. So they kind of are at will and can keep popping and generating points and recruiting points and stuff like that. Taking acolytes off or taking warriors off, making them acolytes to be able to screw and dick around with other people. But the way that the mechanical marquee ramps against one other person is actually, it's impossible. I would very much argue it's impossible. Hell, like, because with the because it came with the expansion, so the whatever that expansion was called, like, it came with like, oh hey, here's the ones that you can play them with. So in solitaire mode, you can use the vagabond, you can use the lizards, and you can use the birds, so the eerie. I would very much argue that all 3 of those you couldn't ramp up quick enough. The eerie, there's no way, because the eerie are kind of a slow burn programming as well, and then they just ramp up out of nowhere. The vagabond has to go on quest and slowly get points, and then try and pick them off. And then the lizards, like I just said, it was very, very difficult to try and keep them in check, because they get points, like I said, 2 points per clearing that they rule with at least 3 of their warriors. Okay, well, since they constantly, like, but I didn't have any problem, like, for some half of the board, but it was very difficult to move my people because you can only do crusades with the outcasts. Okay, well, based off the cards I got, it was becoming pretty difficult to just discard cards to make the conspiracies that I needed to be able to move to the clearings that they had people. So by the time they just honed in, I was like, yeah, like, they got 12 points at the end. There's nothing I can do about that. I was doing pretty well keeping up. I got to 17. That's not terrible. Like, at least that's over half of what's necessary to win. But I mean, it was just I think it's really bad. Because at the same time, you really have no control. And here's kind of where it bugs me, is the way that their turns work is you reveal a card. Okay, so with the wild, so the birds, they do it everywhere. They do their whole daylight thing everywhere. So they battle in everywhere that has enemies. They move to, anywhere that they need to, that, as long as they keep 3 behind, which in some cases might not be any at all. Then they recruit everywhere. So it's like, this is just awful. Well, they don't recruit anywhere. They recruit based off of, the sign here. So the rule of this suit. So in this case, it was everywhere. And then it's like I feel like if they drew a bird, then it's like, oh, okay, well they should have had a special rule against wilds, because them being able to do anything is so difficult. And I know as a player, the birds are wild for the most part. The lizards, in this case, the birds are not wild. They have a hatred of birds, so they're not wild for rituals, so I can use them to sacrifice, which gets me acolytes. I mean, the freedom of the lizard cult is really nice. Like, I could basically recruit a person in a bunt, and then, kill them, recruit in the fox, kill them, and things like that. And that gets me my 2, but they can only do conspiracies during their bird song, and you're doing all that stuff after, so you have to plan for the next turn. And by that point, they were just running wild. Like, they don't have any people. They don't have any warriors left. They're all on the board because I wasn't able to kill them to get them off and try and, keep them down. Which is really kind of what all, Root is about. There's ways you can generate points, removing, basically any wooden piece or building, then you get a point for that. I was getting some, and then being able to, I wasn't really able to craft as much either, so I wasn't able to get points from that. It was just, pretty much my biggest complaint is the fact that they can utilize wilds to such an extreme degree that the game's almost going to run away. And I understand in my run through that I got 2 wilds for them off the bat, and there's nothing I can do about that. So they're just spreading out, where I'm like, oh man, it takes time to make a cult. Like, you don't just spring a cult up out of nowhere. You have to recruit, you have to do everything. So the lizard cult's very slow burn, but the Eerie is as well, and the Vagabond is. So now, I do know that in their newest expansion that will be coming out, I feel like relatively soon, they have a solo mode where each faction has a solo variant. So I'm hoping that they play different, because otherwise, what's the point? And I'm sure they will. Like, the Eerie has a solo variant, Vagabond, Woodland Alliance, all that. You can't even play the Woodland Alliance because they're all about, card generation. You can't play the Beavers. What are they called? I think it was just like the River Folk. You can't play them because they run a market, so you need to be able to have another person sell you their stuff. So I understand why you can't play every faction in a solo, but I feel like really the only people that would be good against the Mechanical Marquee is the Marquee, the cat faction. But since the Mechanical Marquee uses the cats, you can't have them in the same game. Like I said, I think that the Mechanical Marquee itself, this board, like this actual thing, works really well in a multiplayer game, but in a solitaire mode, I think it is actually pretty bad. Unless I just completely shit the bed in how they work, which I really don't think I did, because they're very streamlined and simple to look at. It's just like, to be able to move. Now the river folk would have been nice, because then I can use my lizards to be able to go up the river and then attack them in areas that they had. But by the time they had their people, I finally got some people down here, but I didn't have any acolytes. So then I would have had to kill off 2 of my people. Actually, pretty much if I had time, I would have done exactly that. I would have recruited, killed. So then I'd have the 2 for the next round, because then it's 4v4. And then I could have fought there. So then I could be like, oh, okay, I'm attacking. Okay, it's 2 and 2, so I'm going to kill 2 here. Get a point. They're going to kill 2. There's more acolytes. Boom. So then now they don't have 3 there. Yay. Then my next turn, my outcast is the foxes, and the foxes are up here. So then I could be like, oh, I'm gonna spend these 2 to go on a crusade and move up there, and then I'm gonna battle there, and whatever it was. I mean, in that case, it was 2 zeros. That would suck, asshole. But like if I rolled better, 3 and 1, perfect. So I'm gonna kill 2 of theirs. They're gonna kill 1 of mine. That's an acolyte. I'm gonna get a point. So now that's how it should have been done. But I couldn't do that quick enough. I didn't have the time by the way that they were generating points. Like I said, they work really well with their movement. You know, if they have, like, in one clearing they have 7 people, they would move 4 out to a certain area. So they try to keep 3 in each location because that's how they're going to get their points, and it works really, really well. So if you're wanting the expansion, I guess this is kind of a review on the expansion as well. It's definitely worth getting. Like, I think the lizard cults are really unique. One thing that Leader Games has done very well, I think over a drastic improvement over Vast, is that they've made each faction super unique and super fun to play, without being difficult to kind of figure out how they work. Your strategy is going to be against, the combination of who's in and who's out. And so the river folk are super interesting. They run a market. They basically will utilize people who have, like, basically the birds, the Marquee and the lizards can use their people as, like, purchasing. So it's like, hey, I want to use your guys, or I want to use your ability to use the river so I can move up through the river. Oh, okay, well, in this turn it's going to cost you 4 people. And they use their people to generate and get better stuff for them. And then the lizard folk, like I said, they utilize gardens and get points for that, and then recruit kind of all over the board, so they're really cool in terms of the other 4. And the mechanical marquee, I think this would be a fantastic, because you can even make this game cooperative, and now you both are trying to get 30 points before they do. So you still have to play your faction like you normally would, except now you're focusing on them, but since they generate so quickly, and that's what I'm saying is, like, in a cooperative game, then, like, it would have been more manageable, because it's like, oh, okay, so they got 2 bird cards, so now they're just doing everything everywhere. Okay, let's see, we can manage this. Like, okay, so here's what you need to do, as is the Eerie or whatever. But you even have more options. In a cooperative mode, you use them, you can use the Woodland Alliance and the Eerie, or 2 Vagabonds, or Vagabond and the Woodland Alliance, or Vagabond, or pretty much everyone except the Mechanical Marquee, and then with 4 or more players. So you just have more options and more ways to play than just the solitaire mode. In the way they sprung up with them having 7 over here, and then in this case it was like 4 here, 3 there, 4 there. It's like, okay, as the Eerie, I need you to use your next thing to be able to jump to a mouse location and deal with them. I'll try and swing my lizards up this way, and you get to cooperatively do that because they ramp so quickly. In a solitaire game, you can't. You're the only guy managing a ramping, tyrannical faction, and it's just impossible. So unless their solitaire mode was meant for you to control 2 factions while playing against them, I think it's a really, really bad solitaire game. Which is a shame, because I think this game is fantastic, and for some reason it's really difficult to get to the table, and I don't know why. It really shouldn't be, but I was really hoping that the solitaire would work, because it's like, oh, that'll give me a reason to play Root, but it's pretty bad. So if I were to rate this on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I'm going to rate the Mechanical Marquee. Man, I think for its solo play, I'm probably going to give it a 3. Like, I think it's really bad. Like, I think a 2 is way too low, and a 1, clearly you can play it, but. So that's a 3 is its solo version, so I don't think this should be ever played solo. But I'm going to give it another rating for how it would be as the Mechanical Marquee variant, which you bring in as, like, another player if you have, 2 people and then another one, or 2 people and then you want to put this in, or 3 people, this in, 4 people, 5, and so you can throw this in. I think that one, that's probably, like, if let's see. Yeah, I mean, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I think that it does a pretty good job of giving you pressure in a competitive setting that you still have to play. But I would still say that Root as a whole, with the Lizard Cull, and like, it's like a 9.5 out of 10. Just because, like, the game thriving with the total asymmetry, but how each faction is, like I mentioned, asymmetric, but also synergizes well with competing against others in a radically different way, that you're missing out if you're not playing that way. But if you do have to play another way, I think the Mechanical Marquee works as a cooperative kind of setting, or hell, even a competitive, because you can play as a competitive thing. So I think that's pretty cool. But as for solo, it's probably one of the worst solo experiences I've done, which is saying something, because I guess that's really not. A lot of people seem to put some thought into their solo variants. Some definitely more than others, and I'm not referencing to leader games or anything like that. But I've played some pretty bad solo games. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the solitaire variant for Root. Let me know what you think of that variant in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching this, and if you like this video, then click the subscribe button below to enjoy any video that I put out. And right next to that subscribe button is a little bell. Click that so you get notified of whenever I actually upload these videos. If you want to support the channel, you can definitely visit my Patreon page. The link is in the description below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.